What's going on, guys? It's your boy Hatter, FFL Commissioner, with my boy, my day one, Marcus Grant from NFL Fantasy. What's going on, brother?
Not much, man. Good to be on, man. I appreciate the invitation.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. What you doing nowadays, man? I know. I mean, you joined, the NFL Fantasy in 2011, and you started your analyst at that time, and you're still doing it, man. Almost 10 years plus strong, brother.
Yeah, no. In fact, I will be officially 12 years in about 2 weeks. It's about
Exactly.
a couple weeks out from that. It's amazing. I didn't ever anticipate it. I when I started this job, I
Right.
didn't play fantasy seriously. Like I played just with friends. It was just kind of
Right.
a casual thing, just a way to
Right.
pass the time.
Right.
And it's been great. I started basically as essentially a copy editor, just reading columns and editing stuff. And now I've
Right.
been lucky to do podcasts and do TV. So it's been an amazing ride. I mean, look, the NFL it helped me meet my wife. We got a son.
Hey, there
So,
you go.
in 12 years, I've had a lot of major life changes thanks to the NFL.
I mean, hey, man, Marcus, man, that's good stuff right there, man. I mean, that's good news, and I hope you do even more wonders later on, man. I mean, I always, always watch your fantasy inputs and stuff on the app, and I'm, happy enough that we're good friends. So, um, this year, man, fantasy is it's very different this year. I mean, there's a lot of questions, that's going on that is very alarming, can be disalarming. Like for example, like the running back situations. Not most of them are not getting paid what they want to be paid, and most of them are kind of sitting out or even playing, but might not even be playing for the fully their full potential. So, what do you think some of those running backs might be red flags this year?
It's scary. Obviously the two that immediately come to mind are Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs. And in fact, story going around that Jacobs took a flight out of Vegas. He's left Las Vegas. That people close to him are saying he doesn't plan on being around the team anytime soon. I mean, it sounds sort of similar with Saquon, where he doesn't have any plans to really show up and be at training camp anytime soon. And I'll say this: in the past, when you hear about guys talking about holding out and maybe not playing until they get a new contract, you always get the feeling that that doesn't really last, right? You get into
Right.
training camp, and especially when guys are holding out, guys that are under contract holding out, you start getting
Right.
fines and you start having to pay extra money, and that usually brings guys back. We're talking about two guys that don't actually have a deal right now. And a lot of these running backs are getting fed up, man. I mean, when you're hearing Nick Chubb talk about it, Christian McCaffrey talk about it, Austin
Eckler.
Eckler,
Yep.
yeah, you're talking about top level running backs who are upset. This feels
Right.
like a different year where, unless something happens, you might not see these guys for a while. And I think if you are, if you're Josh Jacobs and you led the league in rushing and you were a major part of the Raiders offense, part of you was like, all right, well, bet. Let's see what you can do without me. And I think the same with Saquon, who had a great year last year and is a big part of the Giants offense. It's like, all right, sure. You think I'm replaceable? Let's see what this offense does when I'm not there. And so,
Right.
I think that makes it scary for fantasy. Now you're talking about these guys falling down draft boards where early on they were, maybe late first round, certainly early second round picks.
Right.
Now these guys are going to start to fall to the third round, the fourth round, depending on how long we are waiting to see these guys come back. They
Yep.
become very risky propositions where you don't want to spend a high draft pick on them. Like, sure, if they're there, it's great and they're going to do well for you. But you're running the risk of how long do I have to wait for these guys? And that is so much of an unknown. And I'll say this one thing in fantasy we don't like is unknowns. It's hard to predict, it's hard to deal with. And this is very much an unknown.
For sure. I mean, some of these guys, man, who they really won championship for many people.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jacobs was on a roll. Eckler obviously is on a roll, and having that big question mark can be a big, turning point, for your fantasy team if you end up drafting them. So it's very different. I mean, even Bijan Robinson being projected in the top seven overall. I mean, you know, Yeah, he's a great, amazing player out of college, but you got to remember this is the NFL. I mean, yeah, he did amazing in college and stuff like that, but the switch over, there's a lot of unknowns. Like no one knows the future. Yes, the name is there, his work is there, but no one's really gonna know how he's gonna fit with the Falcons offense. I mean, to me, him being top seven overall, I mean, it's kind of odd. I mean, what do you think? What's your feedback on that?
So I think we've seen once upon a time when you talked about a rookie going in the first round of a fantasy draft, people were just they would completely just shut you down about it,
Right,
right? It was like he's a rookie, he's never played, you don't really know. But I think over the years it started to change because we've seen a lot of these rookies have really good seasons, especially at running back, right? I mean, you can go back to I mentioned Saquon was one,
right,
Ezekiel Elliott was another one who had a really good rookie season. I got to think about, but there have been some recently that have really come out the box really quickly. Um, and I think when you look at Bijan, everybody's sort of anticipating that because he was the guy in college and in this draft that was the best all around prospect when it comes to the running back position. And he goes to an offense that is the perfect fit for what he wants to do. And we don't really get that very often, that
right,
perfect combination of talent and opportunity. In Atlanta, they want to run the football. They want to run it a ton. And so I think
right,
I think when you talk about him being picked in the top seven, it is a little bit of drafting him at his absolute ceiling. Like you are hoping when you draft him in the top seven that he finishes the year as a top five, maybe even top three running back. And there is some, there's certainly some risk involved in that. But I think the idea being this is a guy with a huge future.
right.
People are anticipating he gets 250 touches, that maybe he can get you 50 receptions. I just think it is like I said, it's one of those rare situations where talent meets opportunity. We don't
Right.
get that a lot, and people are willing to sort of chase that opportunity.
But I definitely agree on that. But it's like, they also got Patterson still there. I mean, they got Algier there still. From what I believe, so it's like Patterson was letting it up. The last 2 years. So
Yeah.
it's just like it's you were gonna say something.
Well, no, I was gonna say I think Patterson is kind of the odd man out, unfortunately for him, right?
Okay.
Especially because the last 2 years
Right.
was sort of different because remember he was drafted and came in the league as a wide receiver and a kick
Right.
returner, and
Right.
almost out of need, the Falcons turned him into a running back, and he did great. But
Amazing.
he did amazing, right? But I think they really do like Tyler Algier. I don't think he completely goes away. But when you've
No.
got Algier and you've got Bijan Robinson, you don't need to use Cordero Patterson as a,
Right.
a running back. So I think you're going
Right.
to see him. I think he's going to focus on kick returns. I think he's going to go
Right.
because he is already a Hall of Fame level player when it comes to
Right.
kicks and
Right.
punts.
Oh
I
yeah.
think
I mean,
I think he
broke
goes
some records.
right. I
Yep.
think he goes back to that. I think he goes back to being on a part-time wide receiver. So I don't think he's the guy to worry about when it comes to Bijan. But I do think Tyler Algier. Everything I've heard is that they still love Tyler Algier down
Right.
there in Atlanta. So I don't think he
Right.
completely goes away.
Well, see, the thing is, I mean, once again, it comes back to the unknown, right? Bijan comes in, first game, who knows? Second game, who knows? Now, if he doesn't perform what they think that might not be what they're expecting, right? Patterson can come in and start doing what he was doing last year. So it would for some newcomers it would make them feel a little comfortable knowing that okay, like Bijan's backup is some cornball or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or, so then it'll be like, hey, hey, I got this, right? But they got some dogs back there, and not just one, two. So I don't know, man. I mean, obviously, would you draft Bijan Robinson
Oh
in
yeah.
the first round?
I mean, that's the thing. If you want Bijan, you got to draft in the first round. I don't think he's going to last till the second round in a lot of drafts. If somehow he slipped to the second round, I 100% make that move.
Right.
But I'll tell you in mock drafts and some early best ball drafts, I've done it a couple of times where I've taken him at like 7 or 8.
Wow.
Because again, that's the asking price.
Right. Right.
Like
Right. Right.
you're worth what the market says you're worth, and right now the market says he's worth a first round pick.
Shoot. I mean, dude. Hey, man. Hey, man. I mean, I'm gonna wish you luck on that. I mean, me personally, man. Any running backs right now. in the first round, obviously with what's going on, it's tough. And obviously I'm investigating, but obviously, wide receivers always are a thing, especially in PPR, right? Um, I got my rankings here on my other laptop. I'll go through my top five rankings for wide receivers. Um, this is who I got. All right. So for at first I got JJ.
Mm-hmm.
Second I got Jamar Chase.
Mm-hmm.
Third I got Cooper Cup,
Right.
and fourth Hill, and fifth I got Adams. So
Okay.
that's what's my ranking as far as that. I don't know if you have your sheet next to you. Um, what's your rankings looking like?
So I'm with you on Jefferson at one.
Right.
I've got Cooper Cup at two. I flip flop
Okay.
Cup and Chase. Right.
Okay.
I've
Okay.
got Cup at two and Chase at three.
Okay.
I've got Tyreek Hill at four. I've got Stephon Diggs at five.
Okay.
And I've got Adams at six. So
Adams. Okay.
we're not significantly different in
Oh,
terms
definitely.
of
It's,
what we're
and
looking at.
knowing that you and me both cut from the same cloth, I mean, it's not going to be much different. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I mean, definitely. That and running backs. This is my running back list might be a little shocking though.
Okay.
This is who I got my running backs rankings. All right, I got one at one. I got Nick Chubb.
Okay.
Number two, I got Henry, Derrick Henry.
Okay.
Third, I got CMC. Fourth, I got Pollard.
All right.
And then fifth, I got Eckler.
Okay.
And I feel like Pollard, man. I mean, dude, who's his backups, man. I mean, Malik Davis and Ronald Jones. I mean, cool. You know they I. But I feel like Pollard's gonna be eating this year. I mean, he had over 1,000 yards, over 7 touchdowns last year. I believe it was 9 touchdowns last year, and he lit it up with Elliott there. I feel like, man, this guy is gonna be at least top four this year. And obviously with all the stuff that's going on with Jacobs and a lot of these players. I mean, you have to put some of these players in the top five, from what I believe. Eckler, posted that tweet out last week about him being angry as well about the whole running back situation. So it's kind of, when you see those things, especially when you and me, we're not in no leagues for like $10, right?
Right.
If it was $10 leagues, it's all right. But we in some serious leagues. I mean, when people, if players, it's all about mind. It's all about playing. I mean, if their mind is not in the right, pathway, I mean, it's alarming. I mean, what's your running back ranking looking like?
So mine's a little bit different. We got some differences here because I've
Okay,
got Austin Eckler at number one,
okay,
Christian McCaffrey at two.
okay,
To your point, I got Bijan at three,
right,
Nick Chubb at four, and
okay.
Jonathan Taylor at number five.
Woo! Now Jonathan Taylor. Let me ask you something about him. You think he's gonna be what he did last year?
I think he'll be better than what he did last year. Last
Oh,
year, I
definitely.
mean,
That's what I'm saying. Do you
yeah,
think
yeah,
he?
yeah.
You think he's gonna be an explanation this year
I
and
think
not a question mark like last year?
No, I think this year, one, hopefully he'll be healthier.
Right.
He was beat up last year, and that really did a lot. But I think honestly, a big part of it is going to be, I'm assuming at some point Anthony Richardson's going to be the starter at quarterback there
Right.
in Indianapolis, and
Right.
having Richardson and his ability to run
Right.
really is going to open some things up. I also like the fact that I think an underrated part of Taylor's game is how well he catches the football. That was what he did 2 years ago
Right.
when he finally had his big breakout season. The knock on him coming out of college is that he doesn't catch the football. And my attitude to stuff like that is always, just because we've never seen a guy do something doesn't mean he can't do something. And at Wisconsin, they didn't ask him to catch the football.
Right.
Um, we saw that 2 years ago in Indianapolis. So I think his
Right.
ability to catch the ball in an offense that, they've got Michael Pittman. They don't have a ton of other pass catchers that scare you. They potentially have a running quarterback in Anthony Richardson there. I think there's a lot of reason to be excited about Taylor, not to mention the fact that, you look at the depth chart behind him. There
Right.
aren't really any guys back there that scare me in terms of getting snaps and touches. I mean, it's going to be the Jonathan Taylor show in that backfield.
Right.
He's going to get most of the snaps as long as he's healthy. He's going to get most of the touches as long as he's healthy. And I
Right.
do think he's back to being a top 5 guy again.
Okay, hopefully, man. I mean, last year, I mean, he made a lot of disappointments, and obviously, a lot of people picked him first pick, and it wasn't just his year, but hopefully, man, health is the key for him. I've been noticing whenever he's going down low. I don't know if you ever notice when he's running, he's always trying to put his head down. Then kind of walk straight up, run straight up to a player. I mean, I'm sure coaches are kind of adjusting that and kind of noticing that because when you're putting your head down, you're putting more. You kind of allowing more. It's not even a head-to-head contact, but it's more pressure to your lower body in a
Yeah.
sense. But we shall see. What do you think, man? Some of these undercover players, man, that might be some good sleepers this year. Probably top three for you.
Um, some guys I'm looking at this year, I think Cam Akers is a sleeper in for the
Okay.
Rams.
Right.
Just because last year they kept trying to
I
move
don't
away
want.
from him.
Yeah,
They
last
kept
year
trying
was
to
bad.
they kept trying to move away from him, but what everything they did kept coming back to him. It didn't matter,
Right.
right? They kept trying other running backs, and eventually they realized that he's the best guy they've got,
Right.
and this year the depth chart's no better. It might even be worse than what it was last year. Uh,
Exactly.
so I think he's set up for a big opportunity. Um, I think I think we keep sleeping on a couple of older receivers, right?
Okay.
One is Tyler Lockett because
Oh, yeah.
every year people keep trying to bury Tyler Lockett,
There'll be
right?
one
And this
game
year,
that he'll have 60 points for you.
right?
You
This year I
know what I
get it,
mean?
right? They
It's
drafted
like it's
Jackson
like
Smith and
you log
Jigba,
on to your fantasy app and you're like, what the heck? I'm
right?
like down 80 points, and then you
Right.
see Lockett got 60 points that game.
Yeah. And like some of it, I get it, right? They drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba, and everybody likes rookies and stuff.
Right.
But I still think Tyler Lockett's going to be a guy who, like every year, he'll get you about 80 catches. He'll get you like 1,100 yards. He'll score like 8 touchdowns, and it'll be
Right.
all good. The other one is Brandon Cooks, who, again, he's a good player, and I never understood why. It seems like every year or two he gets traded to a new team, and I don't really understand why. Because he's just consistent and he's good no matter who the quarterback is. But now he's in a good spot in Dallas. They
Right.
got CD Lamb who's going to get some attention on his side. So that opens some things up for Cooks. He's got Dak Prescott throwing the football. So I,
Right.
I see him getting back to being a 1,000-yard receiver. It's been a couple years, I think, since he's been at 1,000 yards. I think this
Right.
is the year he gets back to being a 1,000-yard guy. And he's going off, what, eighth round or later, I think, in a lot of drafts. I would be
Right.
willing to take that shot at Brandon Cooks.
Right. And I mean, what I got going on is, I feel like, putting everything aside, I feel like Kadarius Tony, might have something for him this
He
year,
just got to
even
stay
though
healthy. He just has to
he
stay
just has to
healthy.
stay healthy, but and stop, and he needs to stop, cussing in people's DMs.
That part, yeah.
That too.
That part
But
too.
other than that, I mean, bro, the motions plays that they had for him in the Super Bowl, man, come on, that thing was unstoppable, right? And if he stays healthy, and him and Patrick is Patrick, right? I mean, if they got that right connection, I mean, who else they got there? Nobody. I mean, Scantling. I mean, come on. I mean, Sky Moore. No, I mean, no, it's not gonna work. So I mean, Kadarius can be that dude. I was talking to my good friend Naze. He was telling me that he's the one that's actually doing it big right now. So he could definitely be the explanation. I feel like in Green Bay they don't have much going on. I mean, Dobbs. I mean, you know Romeo Dobbs. I mean, he might be something this year as well if he stays healthy once again. But last year as a first rookie coming in, he could be good. Jordan Love. I mean, what do you? I mean, I don't know how he's gonna do as far as playing wise, but someone needs to catch the ball, right?
I think that's it, right? I don't know that people are going to be drafting Jordan Love a lot,
No.
but that doesn't mean that the guys around him can't still be good. And whether it
Right.
is, maybe it's Dobbs. I think Christian Watson is probably going to be the guy that gets a lot of targets.
Right.
I know people who people who study wide receivers more than I do say that Jaden Reed, the rookie this year, could have a lot of impact. But either
Right.
way, I just think for us, for our purposes, all we need out of Jordan Love is for him to not be terrible, right? He
Right.
just has to be even average,
Right.
and everything's going to be fine. Now, if he's like Zach Wilson level bad, then who knows what happens. But as long as he's
Right.
just okay, that's all we really want. Because like I said, we're not drafting Jordan Love. We're not expecting him to do a lot for us, individually. We just
Right.
want him to get the ball. I mean, I think a good example is a guy like Jacoby Brissett, right? We're like,
Right.
you're not really drafting Jacoby Brissett, but at the
Which
same
he's with
time,
us now.
there he is. Him and Sam Howell battling it out. But we know that Brissett can support a couple of fantasy wide receivers, and so that's
Right.
all we want. Just I guess that should be the mantra for this year for Jordan Love. Just be Jacoby Brissett in year one. That's all we're asking out of you.
Exactly. And then we cannot forget about our boy Terry, man. I feel like, man, Terry, he might lit it up this year, man. I mean, always kind of underappreciated from the league, and I feel like he might come in and start um, going to a different level, man. Let's see. I mean, Howell, his last game, with the Cowboys, he showed some the he can sling the ball, man. So we shall see where that goes as well. Um, when it comes to quarterbacks, what round are you looking for
The
quarterbacks, man? You would
the
think so.
the earliest for me would be the third round.
Wow. Okay.
Um, that's just kind of how it goes. The third round's the earliest, and that makes it hard, which is why I don't draft a lot of Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen and really like that because those guys tend to go in the second round.
Right.
But like if one of those guys happens to slip to round three, or if Jalen Hurts is there in round three, I'll certainly make that move. More realistically, though, I probably am going like round five, round
Okay.
six. So that means a lot of times I'm getting Joe Burrow, maybe a Justin Fields. Those are the kind of guys that I tend to be drafting a lot at quarterback. Just, I think this year, Trevor Lawrence is probably hanging around in that range. He's another guy that I like. Just, I'm not willing to reach up and pay that second round draft price for a quarterback, but I'm
Right.
also I have stopped the whole wait on a quarterback thing. I know you look,
Right.
you can still do it. There's still guys you can get in the later rounds. You can still
Right.
get a Kirk Cousins or a Jared Goff and have a pretty decent quarterback situation. I
Right.
tend to want to be a mid-tier guy. I want to go kind of like I don't want to be, I don't want to get too expensive. I'm not trying to go top shelf necessarily, but I'm also not trying to get that, bargain basement Kirkland brand quarterback. Like I want something
Right.
sort of in the middle, and that's how I end up getting, like I said, Fields, Burrow, Lawrence, some of those
I mean,
guys kind of in
do
the
you
sixth
not
round or
think
so.
Fields might go early this year, though? I mean, the
He
way
might
he
go a little
was.
earlier than that. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
So,
popular.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like there's a with quarterbacks, man. I mean, do you try to go for the stack or do you try to just see who's available?
I mean, I want a guy who can give me some rushing yards, right?
Okay, right,
Like again, it's hard to get Hurts. It's getting harder to get Lamar Jackson. It's getting harder to get Justin Fields. But I want
right,
a guy who can run a little bit because I think that safe rushing floor week to week sort of gives you a little bit of sense of security. And then if they can add to that by being a quality passer,
right,
that's sort of it. Like I think if you get a guy who doesn't run, like
right,
Aaron Rodgers might be great this year, but he doesn't run anymore. So
right,
you need him to be a high volume passer. I mean, that was what helped Tom Brady the last couple years, especially because he didn't run. But the fact that Tom Brady was still getting you 4,500 passing yards and he was getting you 35 or more touchdowns, that sort of kept him in the conversation. So that to me, it's not terrible, but it's a hard way to live. Whereas if a guy has a bad passing game, that makes it hard. I mean, I look at Jalen Hurts last year, and there were times where he didn't throw the football well, but he ran well and he scored a couple of rushing touchdowns, and he would still get you
exactly.
like 25 points in a game just
Yep.
on his legs alone. So that's sort of what I'm looking at.
Right. And then, Aaron Rodgers, like you were saying, he doesn't run, but I mean, man, the weapons he has, what a great situation for him, man. I mean, Garrett Wilson. I mean,
Yeah.
could possibly be a top five wide receiver this year, right? I
It's in the
mean,
possibility. Yeah, no
I
doubt.
mean, he has the best release in the game, and Aaron Rodgers back there, man. Who knows? I mean, that stack is gonna be dangerous. I mean, in fantasy, I mean, I'm sure, people might go for that, but man, it's gonna be a very interesting. It's gonna be a very interesting, you know, um, season for sure. I mean, me personally, uh, you know, when it comes to quarterbacks, I mean, I would love to get Mahomes and obviously Josh Allen and all that. But I mean, like you were saying, man, I mean, second round, you got to build your team. I mean, I understand, quarterbacks are important, but you can't. I mean, you got some, other players that you need to fill in, and obviously, you can always find that gem in a quarterback later on in the draft. But overall, what do you think as far as the hardest position you think is to is what's the hardest position to place and replace in fantasy? You think
I mean, the hardest one I think to fill is tight end, without a
tight end,
doubt,
right?
because there just aren't a lot of really good ones. I mean, there's two or three great ones, right? You got
Right,
Travis Kelsey, you got Mark Andrews at the
right,
top. Then you got a handful of guys that are really good. Like I think you're really good guys in no particular order. T.J. Hawkinson, George Kittle, Darren Waller. Kyle Pitts I think is in there. Um, but I think there's only maybe 8 guys that I think on a week to week basis you can feel super confident in. And
right.
everybody else, it's sort of a roll of the dice every single week.
And
And
tight ends
so,
last year, bro, was dead, man. Like all of them were just like, bruh.
and it's
It was
been
just like
like
you had
that
to pick
for
a
years.
cornball, man. Like rather have a cornball name up there, and they might be performing better than these big names like Pitts and stuff. Remember Pitts last year?
Here's the thing. I still love Kyle Pitts. And
Yeah,
well, first off, his first year as a rookie, he had 1,000 yard season. And
yeah,
people were disappointed because I think the hype was so big on him
right,
that because he didn't finish as like he wasn't a top 5 tight end, right? So people were
right,
disappointed. But he had a really good season. He only scored one
right,
touchdown. That hurt. Last
right,
year, it felt like a combination of things working against him. One, they had a coach who just wanted to run the football, didn't want to throw it a whole lot, and then on top of it, when they did throw, Marcus Mariota was awful.
right,
So those things are sort of working against him. I'm hoping this year is better. I still believe in him. I think he's too talented to not be successful. They just have to try to incorporate him more in the offense. But I mean, I think to your point though, you're right. Last year, if you didn't have Travis Kelsey, who knew what you were going to get from week to week, right? There just was no consistency at the position, and it's been like that for a long time. So yeah, that's why I tend to draft tight ends early. I'll take Travis Kelsey in the first round if he's there.
right,
Um, I'll take a Mark Andrews early. I want to get the tight end position out of the way, generally by
right.
like the fourth or fifth round, because after that, like who knows what you're gonna get, and I don't want that headache.
For sure. Hey man, Marcus, man, I appreciate you coming up here. I like to not I mean we like to not to give too much information out. We get I'm sure our league members are gonna be watching this video, but we gave them a little you taste it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean I appreciate you, Marcus, coming up here. I'm definitely gonna call you back. I'll text you back, and we are definitely gonna do another one during the season and see what's going on and how's everything going so far. But for sure, man, I appreciate you, Marcus. Good luck this year. I'm sure writing those hefty long essays and on NFL and stuff like that. But I really appreciate you and your time
I appreciate you having me on. This was fun.
for sure. All right, guys, everyone, take care. Follow my boy Marcus on Instagram and stay in tune for more podcasts, more to come. Take care, guys.